Alexander the Great conquered the Persian Empire. That is true, and it is not the sentence people think it is. The Persia he beat had been in open revolt against itself for 70 years, had lost Egypt for 6 decades, and was ruled by a man who reached the throne by court poisoning and ran from 2 battlefields in person. He never fought the other one.
The other one belonged to Cyrus.
Media, then Lydia, then Babylon. 3 empires in 11 years, and he lost no battle taking any of them. He will die on campaign at about 70, in the front rank, fighting, which is not something either of the Persian kings Alexander actually beat could have said. He is 400 yards away, on the far side of this plain.
40,000 Macedonians. A Persian army perhaps 3 times the size.
The ancient figures are a boast rather than a count, and I'll keep to ranges where it matters. 1 dry plain in Anatolia, 1 afternoon, and a man on each side who fights in the front rank. Both are real, about 200 years apart. This meeting is not, and neither are the numbers. The morning before the battle, Alexander sends 40 companions forward to look at that line. They ride to within 300 yards, well outside the range of any bow either of them has ever met, and stop there to count standards. The first volley kills 11 of them. The survivors cannot explain it afterwards, because what happened was not aimed at them.
Archers! Range 8! Release!
8 ranks of Persian archers, shooting high on command, drop arrows into a patch of ground the size of a threshing floor, and 40 horsemen were standing in it. Nobody in that line ever saw a Macedonian. They come back along the front of the Persian left, and that is where the second thing happens. 300 yards out, the horses stop taking the bit. Animals sidestepping, heads going up, one going backwards into the horse behind it, and the men on them shouting at animals that are not being disobedient. There is a line of camels standing in front of the Persian archers.
No Macedonian horse has ever smelled one. 11 men and an hour, and Alexander has learned both things that will beat him. He cannot go home either.
A Persian force that walks away is a levy empire that raises another next spring, and he cannot survive a second season on foraged grain in a country being emptied ahead of him. He has to destroy the army, and
take the king.
Cyrus only has to still have an empire at dusk. Cyrus builds his line narrower than Alexander's, and he does it on purpose. The Macedonians hold a mile of frontage. Cyrus has 3 times the men and takes up less ground, flanks bent back toward his own rear, so the ends of his army sit behind the middle.
It looks like a man who has run out of room.
He has done this before.
I have seen this shape before.
And the man he did it to is dead. Croesus stood where Alexander is standing, 20 years ago at Thimbra, looking at this shape. He did the obvious thing, sent his wings round to surround it, and as they wheeled, gaps opened at the hinges, and reserves that had stood still all morning went into them. The camels came out of the baggage train on that same field.
Deploy the screen.
Cyrus does not defend a position. He builds a shape, sells it, and kills whoever buys it. And he has now sold the same one twice, to a man who knows the story. The front of it is a wall of woven cane, planted in the earth, 1 spearman to each shield, 8 ranks of archers behind. It cannot advance, and it cannot turn. Everything Cyrus does today depends on somebody else walking into it. There is 1 wing bent back behind each end of that line, with mixed horse sitting still inside it, and neither of them moves all morning. Alexander looks at it for a long time.
Then 40,000 men step off together.
A phalanx coming out of a halt makes a noise nothing else makes. 18-foot pikes coming down from the vertical in sequence, block by block down the line, the whole front of the army lowering itself like something closing. Then the ground starts.
40,000 pairs of feet on dry Anatolian dirt, in step.
And the dust comes up behind them a mile wide and stays there because there is no wind.
From the Persian side, they are a brown cloud with points coming out of the top.
And the points are getting closer at the speed of a man walking, and 8 ranks of archers have been told not to shoot yet. At 200 yards, they shoot. A man in the fourth rank has both hands on 18 feet of pike and a shield strapped to his forearm, covering his left side only. He cannot lift it. That is the trade a sarissa asks for, and every man in the block agreed to it years ago. An arrow comes down through the gap between shield rim and cheekpiece into his collarbone. He goes down without letting go, and the man behind steps over the pike and picks it up. They cannot answer.
1,000 Cretan archers against 8 ranks of Persian bows is a gesture, not an arm. 20 minutes, 900 men. Not one of them killed by anybody they could see.
Then the phalanx reaches the wicker, and it is not close for a second.
Push them back into the dust!
A Persian behind a shield of cane faces 4 iron heads arriving together, from 4 men standing at 4 different distances, none of whom he can reach with a spear that stops at 9 feet. The first point goes through the spara, the cane slitting along the weave, and into the man holding it, and he is pinned upright against his own shield before the second rank walks him down. The wall does not break. It was never built to. It is planted, and holding it is what kills them.
The line goes back. 20 yards, then 50, then more.
And the archers are shooting straight up at nothing, because a dropping arrow now lands on Persians.
The Persian front bulges rearward.
And Cyrus's baggage ends up nearer to the Macedonians than it is to him. This is Alexander winning, and it is exactly the moment his method calls for the other half of the army, because the phalanx does not finish anything. It never has. Alexander has already given the order. 1,800 armored horsemen on the right are forming the wedge, and he is in the point of it. This is the move that ended Darius. At Gaugamela, he advanced obliquely to drag the Persian line sideways until a seam opened, then took the wedge into it himself. He does not find gaps.
Advance!
He manufactures them, and then he rides into them personally. The seam is there. The bulge in the Persian left has pulled the line apart exactly where he needs it, and the ground in front of the wedge is open grass. The camels come forward at a walk. 300 of them spread loose across the front of that seam, and the men on them do not shoot, and do not charge, and do not do anything at all. The lead Macedonian horses smell them at about 150 yards. The front rank stops being a formation in under 4 seconds. Not from fear of dying.
These animals have gone into a spear wall without checking.
They will not go toward a camel. A horse cannot endure the smell of one, and no Macedonian horse has ever smelled one, because they were shipped from Macedon and Thessaly and have been in Asia for weeks. One turns hard left and takes 2 others with it. A rider comes off and is trampled by his own second rank. The wedge folds back on itself and comes apart across 400 yards of open ground with nothing whatsoever done to it. On the outer right of that wedge, a man gets his horse turned and walked and stopped and turned again, 4 times, and each time it comes back round to face the camel line, it stops dead and will not take another step. He is not frightened. His horse is, and there is nothing in his training for that. Nobody is fighting, nothing has touched them, and the hammer is gone. The phalanx can pin an enemy. The companions are supposed to finish him. One half of Alexander's system is now 400 yards from the fight,
Advance!
on animals that will not turn round.
Agrianes.
He works out what to do about it in under 2 minutes,
And charge!
and what he works out is correct.
He does not take the cavalry round.
Going
Instead, he
round is
sends the
400 yards of
Agrianians.
open flank, and he can see that as clearly as Cyrus can. Instead, he sends the Agrianians. A camel is an enormous, slow, lightly protected animal carrying a man who is not a cavalryman. Against horses, it is a wall. Against Thracian javelin men coming at it on foot, at a run, from 100 yards, it is a target the size of a door. The javelins go in underneath. Camels go down in the front rank, and the ones behind will not step over them, and the men on top have nothing to answer with at that range. Within 10 minutes, the screen has holes in it. Within 15, it is coming apart across its width. Alexander has solved the camels. Croesus did not even try. He has done it with light infantry. from a standing start, in a quarter of an hour. Then Cyrus does something nobody watching can explain.
Behind the wing!
He pulls the surviving camels back. Not into the line, out of it entirely, behind his own bent left wing, where they cannot be reached and will not be used again. He has just watched his one answer to Macedonian cavalry work perfectly, and he is walking it off the field.
Because the camels were never a weapon.
They were a clock,
Keep the files! Push forward!
and the phalanx has been walking the whole time. 20 minutes at the pace of a man crossing a field is a quarter of a mile of ground with a dip in it and a dry watercourse through it, and the far right block of the Macedonian center is now 8 yards ahead of the block beside it, and nobody has ordered that or noticed it. The reserve Cyrus put behind that bent wing at dawn has not moved since dawn.
It moves now.
They do not go at the companions. A fight with companion cavalry is not something Cyrus wants and never was. They ride past them, into the gap between the horse and the foot,
That gap is 400 yards wide.
because Alexander's answer to the camels required him to take his cavalry out of the battle in order to work. Our man in the fourth rank has 18 feet of pike in both hands and a horseman arriving from his open side, and there is no version of the next 2 seconds in which he gets that pike round. He is killed holding it. So is the man in front of him. The file does not break. It cannot. The men at the front are still engaged with wicker. It stops existing from the outside in. The reserve behind the other bent wing does the same thing at the same time. And Alexander, with the screen cleared at last and the seam still open in front of him, has about 10 seconds to decide whether to ride through it after Cyrus or turn round and save what is left of his infantry.
Pull back! Reverse the wedge!
By full dark, the Macedonian center is a third of what walked onto that plain. The Persian front is a quarter mile behind where it started, and both armies are still on the field. Alexander marches west with a cavalry arm that has not lost a horse and an infantry arm that cannot be rebuilt this side of the Hellespont.
He has not been routed and has surrendered nothing.
He simply cannot do this again in the spring, and the spring is what he needed. Cyrus loses about 9,000 men,
Most of them standing behind a wall of woven cane.
which is what happens to a man who is told to hold a shield he cannot fight from.
Alexander broke the strongest defensive formation by walking into it.
Drove the Persian center back a quarter of a mile, solved the camels with light infantry inside 15 minutes, and got every one of his companions off the field alive. Under these conditions, Cyrus wins.
The camels did not beat him. Alexander beat the camels.
In a quarter of an hour, with light infantry, faster than anybody else in the ancient world managed it.
Solving them is what killed his army.
Philip built the phalanx to pin an enemy, while the heavy horse came round the outside and hit what could not turn. The pikes are the anvil, the companions are the hammer. It has never been used any other way. Clearing that screen took the hammer 400 yards out of the battle for 20 minutes, and the anvil kept walking.
They were never a weapon. They were a clock.
And Cyrus paid 80 animals for the 20 minutes it took a correct answer to arrive. That is the Thimbra move exactly. Build something the enemy has to solve and put your reserve where the solving opens him up. It cost Cyrus 9,000 men, most of them holding shields they could not fight from. It cost Alexander the campaign. Give him one more season, one summer with camels in his own baggage train until the horses stop caring.
Then there is no clock to sell.
The variable is not the camel. It is whether the invasion is in year 1 or year 2. The figures are modeled rather than recorded, and the heaviest assumption is that Macedonian horses, at first contact, had never been near a camel. The man on the outer right of the wedge came off that plain without having fought anybody. He turned his horse 4 times, and 4 times it stopped, and by the time it would go forward, there was nothing left in front of him worth going toward. His horse was never touched, neither was he, and behind him, while he sat there, the best infantry in the world was being killed from the sides by men it never saw.